What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to Red Seat Radio. My name is Corbin, and before we get into anything today, I just want to take a second and say thank you to every single person who subscribed to this channel. Yesterday, we hit 800 total subscribers, an insane number, an astronomical number, so thank you all so much for your support. Let's keep this thing rolling. We are so close to 1,000 subscribers. Make sure you're telling your friends, your family, everyone you know to subscribe to Red Seat Radio. Anyways, for today's video, there was a recent free agent that signed with the team, the Braves, and ended up being let go by said Braves upon request, and that is Brock Holt. The second Brock Holt got released from the Braves, Red Sox Twitter, Red Sox Reddit, everywhere kind of blew up in a giant support to get Chaim Bloom to sign Brock Holt. Now, I gotta be totally honest with you. As much as I love Brock Holt as a person, as a player, just an all-around amazing dude, I do not know if bringing Brock Holt back to the Red Sox is a good idea or not. So for today's video, what I'm gonna be doing is I'm gonna be listing the pros and cons of bringing Brock Holt back. We're going to talk about all of them. Then I want you guys to tell me in the comments down below whether or not you think, after everything you heard, Chaim Bloom should go out and get Brock Holt. But as always, before we get into that, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button. Like I said, we just hit 800. Let's try and get to 1,000 before the end of April. So do me a favor, make sure you're hitting that. Also, make sure that you guys have hit that like button as well. Those help out the videos a ton. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Thank you all so much for 800 total subscribers. Let's get into it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and break down the pros and cons in terms of literal numerical statistics that we can put on a spreadsheet, and another category that are sort of the intangible items that make Brock Holt who Brock Holt is. That's the nostalgic value. We'll get into it. So anyways, I wanted to start with the statistics. Just before we get into those though, I do want to say that most likely if we were to sign Brock Holt, he'd be used as a utility outfielder, not really a utility infielder, although he'd probably get some reps in there too. I don't think he would be our number one utility guy. I think Christian Arroyo would still be our number one utility guy. So we're looking at probably less than 100 plate appearances for Brock Holt if he got signed and made the roster. The good news is that while in the outfield, Brock Holt has a pretty decent OPS plus over his career. If you don't know what OPS plus is, it's a good way of determining how a player hits compared to the other players in the league. And with the average being 100, he's pretty decent in left and right field, where he's above average in those and below average in center, but only by like 3. So in the outfield at the plate, he's pretty good. And I don't know why that is, whether if he enjoys playing the outfield more or whatnot, but he hits pretty well in the outfield, which would be good news for us. Unfortunately, that's about the only positive with Brock Holt coming to the Red Sox, that is statistically. After Brock Holt left the Red Sox, he hasn't exactly been lighting the world on fire. Since his last year in 2019 with the Red Sox, Brock Holt has just a OPS plus of 58. Now, like I said, average MLB player is a 100 OPS plus. That means he is 42 points below the average in 2020 and 2021. That is not great numbers. And even if you're not totally convinced by OPS plus, that's my favorite statistic to use when looking at guys. But in case you kind of old school and you like the older numbers, he had a combined average in 2020 and 2021 of 209. Bringing in Brock Holt wouldn't exactly add a depth piece to our lineup. What it would do is it would allow for guys to take days off, and it would allow for Christian Arroyo to take some of the burden of being the only real backup for every single position on the team. Those are the statistical pros and cons for Brock Holt. But Brock Holt is kind of a special player with the Red Sox in that he's got more than just a statistical backing to look at when you're trying to decide whether or not to bring him to the Red Sox. So let's take a look at some of the intangible items that make Brock Holt Brock Holt. The first intangible I want to talk about really has nothing to do with whether or not he gets signed. It's just that he's a fan favorite, obviously. Everyone loves Brock Holt in the organization, outside of the organization. All the fans, all the clubhouse staff, all the guys on the team love Brock Holt. We have not heard anything bad about Brock Holt. Now, obviously, the fan side of it doesn't really matter. It's a business. They're going to do whatever. And the fans like us, you and me, will still root for the team regardless of whether or not they bring back Brock Holt. But if they are looking at a player such as Brock Holt, who's going to get less than probably less than 100 at-bats during the season. You got to look at how he affects the game in other ways. One of those ways is in the locker room. Like I said, everyone loves Brock Holt. He's a great presence to have in the locker room, and he kind of fits the mentality of Alex Cora's Red Sox. All of Alex Cora's Red Sox teams have been a sort of really tight-knit group that just plays baseball to have fun. They play and enjoy the game, and Brock Holt does exactly that. He's a goofball. He has fun with the game. He doesn't take himself or the game too seriously as he should. And it really makes a difference in that clubhouse. The other intangible item I want to talk about was what I mentioned before we got into this. And that's that it would take the burden off of Christian Arroyo to be the only super utility guy on the team. Christian Arroyo has had problems with his health in the past. He hasn't been able to stay healthy. He wasn't able to stay healthy last year. He had such a low amount of at-bats. I can't remember the number off the top of my head, but if you looked at it, it would kind of blow your mind because it seems like Christian Arroyo's always on the team, but he's just always on the bench because he's hurt. Brock Holt is another layer to this story that if Christian Arroyo goes down or if Christian Arroyo starts doing badly, you've got another guy who's done this before for a living where he goes out and he can play every single position on the diamond. Hell, Brock Holt even pitched last year. So those are the two intangible items I could come up with that make Brock Holt, that really sort of puts me on the edge of whether or not to bring him back. I think personally, if the Red Sox can get a decent deal on Brock Holt, why not, right? You have a super utility guy that Alex Cora and Chaim Bloom love. All the players in the clubhouse love him. He's a fan favorite. It wouldn't be super expensive. My only concern is the fact that he is not going to be a super productive player at the plate. Now, the interesting thing about Brock Holt is that statistic-wise, he did way better on the Red Sox than he did on any other team. Now, I don't know if that has anything to do with the fact that he enjoyed playing for the Red Sox more than any other team, or if those were just his prime years and this is sort of a downfall for him. So, here's what I want you to do. In the comments down below, use all the information I just gave you and give me what you think Chaim Bloom should do. If you were Chaim Bloom, would you sign Brock Holt or would you let him go to another team? Personally, I'm going to have to say to another team, but it's a really tough decision because I think a lot of us are clouded by the nostalgia of Brock Holt, of that cycle in Yankee Stadium in 2018, of him with Benintendi, the Flow Bros, all of that. I think we're a little bit clouded by the fact that I don't think he'd be a super productive addition to this Red Sox lineup. But I could be completely wrong, so let me know down below. As always, if you've made it to the end of this video, do me a favor, make sure you guys have hit that subscribe button. We just hit 800 like you heard at the beginning of this video. We are on the road to 1,000. Let's see if we can get there by the end of April. So make sure you guys have hit that button. Also, if you've made it to the end of this video, make sure to hit that like button as well. It helps out the video a ton. You clearly enjoy the content, so you might as well hit that thumbs up. Thank you all very much for clicking on this one. Thank you all again for 800 subscribers. I truly do mean that. And I will see you in the next one.